go. Erving. Nothing personal word of the day. We have a Samson Sit-Down with Dr. J. Julius Erving. The way I just said Erving is how Julius Erving was introduced at every home game when Dave Zinkoff was the public address announcer in Philadelphia. Julius, welcome to Nothing Personal.
David, good to be with you.
It is so good to see you. For people who are watching this on YouTube, you're looking at Dr. J. To me, not just one of the top 50 basketball players of all time, but he was the person who knew how to play the game in a way that had never been played before. And I want to talk all about that, but we have to start with what you're doing now because it fascinates me given your past in basketball. You are coaching the Tri-State team in the Big Three, and you are about to go to the playoffs. Is that right?
That is correct. I've been Tri-State's coach for 4 seasons. It's a matter of taking 10 weeks out of your year and leaving the other 42 to do whatever the hell you want to do, and staying connected with the game. You know, Ice Cube and Clyde Drexler personally gave me the call several years ago and said, "Look, we need you." And I had some free time on my hands. And I was still involved with the 76ers, just in terms of being a Sixer alumni and being involved contract-wise, involved with season ticket holders and sponsors, not day-to-day. So I said, this Big Three thing, could be interesting. And now it's become an Olympic sport. It's recognized worldwide. We're on CBS. So it thumbs up all around, it looks like.
So let's talk about this. First of all, the championship trophy is named after you. Is that right? I heard that.
That is correct. And
was that part of your contract?
That's how it goes. No, the first few years it wasn't named after me. I was asked in year 2, could they name the trophy after me? And I said, well, next year it seems like, it'd be a good PR move. And I'm probably the biggest name in there, although we do have other Hall of Famers and George Gervin and Rick Barry and Lisa Leslie and Nancy Lieberman, Gary Payton, Clyde Drexler, as you know, aforementioned. So we got some big names, big basketball names in there, but Cube and Jeff asked if that was doable, and I know the NBA trophy is named after one of my heroes, Bill Russell. So I'm not gonna get my name on that trophy. So this one over here is.
Well, by the way, you could have after you won the '83 championship with the Sixers, and Bill Russell. Obviously, I think he has 11, doesn't he, Julius?
He was the champion 11 times in 13 seasons.
Yeah, I'm still looking for the first Knicks championship since 1973 when I was only 5 years old. How do you draft players into the Big Three? Is it a draft or do you go recruit and put your team together?
We do no recruiting. There's a combine, and there's probably anywhere from 100 to 150 players who are trying to get into that combine to join the league. Each year, the 2 captains remain on your roster. So out of that pool of, whatever 5 times 12 is 60 players who are in the league, 2 on each team stay. So 24 players are set with their rosters, and now you have to go out and find the other 36.
So when you're putting together your team, are you looking for a big man and someone who can handle the ball? Are you doing things a little differently that have led to your success?
Well, it depends on what you have left. So we have Jason Richardson and we have Nate Robinson as my captains. So I do need size. And, I went out and we got collectively with the captains and my assistant, Steve Mix, and my other assistant, Julius Erving, we went and got Larry Sanders as a center. And we got Earl Clark as a forward. And then, we've split time between Tony Roden and Justin Dentman. And right now, Dentman is the 5th guy. and Roden is first up if anything happens to anybody.
How frustrated you get coaching? Because there's something I talk about on the show, which is Hall of Fame players don't always make good coaches because they have a hard time understanding why other players don't see the court the way they do and can't do the things the way they did. And obviously, given who you are, how frustrated do you get?
I only get frustrated when somebody's not listening. And, we have one or two guys on our team who like to fight more so than play. Sometimes, and they like to fight the referees. So I'm constantly sending Steve Mix over to, all right, you go get him and calm him down and have him stop yelling at the referees, the fans, or whatever, and concentrate on the game. Because I think our team has really peaked right now from day one, in which we were, better than average, and now we're the best team in the league. We're the hot team going into the playoffs. So I'd be very disappointed if we didn't win that trophy with my name on it.
I can't wait for you to give the trophy to yourself. You mentioned Steve Mix. Is that your former Sixers teammate who may have worn number 50, big power forward?
That's my boy right there. We roomed together when I was with the Sixers. So, we became lifelong friends, and we celebrate one another's birthdays and the births and the grandkids and just about everything. So when I took this position, he was the first guy I called. He responded, and he's been with me since day one. We just added my son, who's a Cal Berkeley graduate and played basketball there for 2.5 seasons, I believe, maybe 3. And so he's the second assistant coach, and we just have a good time over there. The games go so fast. I mean, we're playing 25 points is halftime and 50 points is game time. So you're in and out in less than an hour. And, when the team's ready to go, we're really good. And when we're not, we dropped a couple of games, but, the 2 top teams in the league are both 6-2 in 8 games. And we're one of those. And now it's playoff time.
I was just going to say, you get to go to the Atlantis and you have a broadcast deal, the big 3. You can watch it on CBS. You can watch it on Paramount. There's all sorts of different ways to watch Julius Erving win his own trophy. You mentioned Steve Mix. I want to talk about the 83 team for 1 second. If you are a basketball fan, you know about the 1983 Philadelphia 76ers, who have been trusting the process ever since. Who on that team would you not have roomed with?
Well, Steve and Bobby Jones were roommates at one time. And when Steve became my roommate, he said, Bobby's the nicest guy, except he's tremendous on defense and he's a Hall of Famer. But he's a terrible roommate. Go to bed at 8:00. You can't keep the TV on. And the room temperature, has to be the temperature that he likes. And whatever. So I said, that could be a problem, especially the 8:00 rule.
When you're putting teams together, Julius, first of all, people don't even realize that back in those days, professional athletes they were flying commercially.
Yeah.
They were living with teammates in hotel rooms, a 2 double bed room on the road, and walking through airports and train stations. That's how it was back in the day.
That was the good old days. I mean, it kept your humility intact. And I think, you felt honored to be a professional athlete and not privileged. And, because there were just some things that you just had to suck it up and go do. And we depended a lot on our trainers and our equipment managers and what have you to move, the franchise to city. And, you always had to catch the first flight out the next morning or whatever. So we didn't have a lot of the conveniences they have today, but that's okay. I think it's made some of the players a little softer, than the 70s, 80s, or the 60s and 50s players. But, there's fan appreciation for the softness and the finesse, and it is what it is.
Do you have issues when you're looking at the current day Sixers? And obviously they have gone through a process. They have not won another title, but I'm thinking back to your 83 team and the way it was made up, with Maurice Cheeks and you and Bobby Jones and World Free
and
back in those days.
Tony and Moses Malone. Of course, you can't forget Big Mo.
No, not in that front court. So when
Yeah.
you look at today's NBA, what frustrates you the most about the game today and today's players?
Well, I think the Sixers, have been a source of frustration in playing Atlanta this year. I think they were the favorite team, and Atlanta just like surprised us. And a couple of years ago, seventh game against Toronto, and Kawhi hits the shot. Yeah, there's a little degree of luck that you got to have to get to the finals, and then there's some luck even involved in the finals, where usually the best team wins, not the lucky team. But getting there and going through that process to get there with all those playoff rounds and the number of games that you have to win, 4, 8, 12, I guess, before you get to the fourth round, which is the finals. And to beat a team 4 times is no small feat. You got to have focus. You have to have concentration. You have to have things going your way. And, forget about the referees. They don't decide the outcome of the game. The players decide the outcome of the game. So it's been a long drought in Philadelphia. I think our fans are eagerly waiting for the team to get over the top. There's a lot of controversy this year with the Ben Simmons situation or whatever, but it seems like the team is staying pat with their big 3 being Joel and Ben and Tobias Harris. And if they can, add pieces and get another year in with Doc Rivers, because, last year was his first year on the job with the Sixers. Sometimes you need time with people to really know how to bring out the best in them. And I see it with my team in the big 3, just from game 1 to game 8 or whatever, the guys in the locker room, and they like each other. They like playing together. And I feel like, I might be a factor in that, but I'm not the main factor. The main factor is, the captains and the crew saying this is something we want to do, and this is something that we're doing, and we want to make a sacrifice to, be all for one and one for all.
Who do you coach like? For all the coaches you've had over your career, you probably took a little bit from everyone, but when you're on the sidelines and you're noticing yourself coaching, do you think of some of your previous coaches?
I do. I had Al Bianchi as my first coach, and Al had me and Charlie Scott in the first season. The second season, he had me and George Gervin and whatever. And he was, George and I, and Charlie as well, we had scored 30 points, 40 points, 50 points, no egos involved. And, I had a 63-point game, in the ABA. And the coach was like, right there, I'm not taking you out of the game. You're a hot player, so, you got to get us these points. My career in the NBA was a little bit different with Gene Shue and Billy Cunningham and Matt Gukas or whatever. It was more, the Brown Ball League had its style, and the ABA had its style. The ABA was wide open, footloose, and fancy free, and so my stats, which was 12,000 points in the ABA in 5 years, and then 18,000 points in 11 years in the NBA. It came to 30,000. But, the leagues were very different for me, and the coaches were very different. So I think my coaching style is more like Bianchi's and Lockery's. Those were the first 2 coaches that I had, and it's probably where, I got to establish myself as one of the world's best players, and multiple-time MVP, scoring titles, and all that stuff. And, it was just a freedom there that I don't think I had in the NBA, and I saw that it was not the league. It was probably how we were managed, and that is what it is.
Did you realize, for people listening or watching, Julius Erving was really the superstar in the ABA, which was a almost a competitor league that then merged into the NBA, and Julius became the face of the merger, if I could call you that right to your face, that you were the most famous and best player who got merged into the NBA. Were you aware during those times the way you were being used as a player to make the merger more palatable?
Yes, I never separated myself from, George Gervin and David Thompson, Dan Issel, and George McGinnis and Artis Gilmore and the other great ABA players who are also in the Hall of Fame. Bobby Jones was there too. So the ultimate goal is, win a championship, win multiple championships if you can. If you're the leading scorer and you're the dominant player, you probably win some scoring titles. Big scorers aren't always the team that wins the championship doesn't always have the leading scorer. Many times and probably most times they don't. So it is a team game. It's a team sport, and my approach to it was always team first and my individuals stuff second to that. And that's what I believe, and I think that's what I believe too. It takes to win. You have to have somebody who is willing to make a sacrifice, and maybe they're better than all the other players on the team, but they got to give up something in order to bring the other guys up and bring the team up. And that was the case with Bill Russell, with the aforementioned Bill Russell, with the 11 championships in 13 years. I don't think in any of those years he was the leading scorer on their team, but he was the dominant force and showed people how to play basketball the right way, which is why he became one of my heroes and one of my idols. And I tried to be a hero and an idol to many who came behind me, and that has happened. And I get a lot of feedback. I get a tremendous amount of feedback at this age when I can no longer run and jump the way that I used to. But I can stroll in a room and there's going to be a reaction to my presence there. That makes me feel good.
So I need to act like a fan for 1 second, even though I'm now the host of a podcast and work at CBS, because I have arguments with people very often about previous eras and current eras and who's the greatest, who's not the greatest. And I just tell people to go on YouTube and watch the video of your layup. And I'm going to say the name wrong because this is from memory. I want to say it was Mark Landisberg. Do I have that name potentially right?
You botched that one.
Okay. What?
Mark Landsberger.
Landsberger. Okay. I did botch that one, Julius.
And then there was Abdul Jabbar under the basket.
So Julius Erving, if you're not watching, please do, has some of the biggest hands, and big hands matter in basketball because you can hold the ball. Look at those hands if you're on YouTube. And it's like in baseball, there's a little pitcher. He's 5'10", named Pedro Martinez. I don't know if you know who that is, Julius. He's got very, very big hands and long fingers, and enables him to manipulate the ball. And you would hold the ball long before James Worthy did this. You would hold the ball like basically a tennis ball, and the way you were able to manipulate it made you, in my opinion, one of the greatest, the ability to get to the hole. And that's what basketball used to be about, the way you were able to create. And I just want to know, when you made that play with Landisberger, do you have it in your head what you're doing, or is it all instinct?
It's instinct, and most of the times when you make a move like that, you've probably done it before, just not on the same stage. And maybe there's a tweak here, there's a twist there. It's just like when Michael Jordan copied my dunk from the foul line. He did something with his legs that I didn't do because my legs were kind of straight and floating, and he kind of expanded his legs, and it just gave it another dimension. Which was great. And you always want to see, somebody chasing the bar if it's high, and then passing the bar if it's really high, and creating a new move. So that particular move, which was, I just kind of called it a reverse layup. I've done many reverse layups, but the hang time leaving from the left side, the right side of the lane, and floating under the basket, extending my arm and holding the ball out there like I was going to pass it to the opposite corner, and freezing their center, Kareem. He came over with his hands up and he froze. And I just kind of instinctively brought the ball inside of his hands and laid it up and made the reverse layup. And then by then I was coming down to the ground and I fell because I'd exhausted my leap at that time, and just got up and ran down the court like it was just another little stroll in the park.
So Julius, I saw that live.
Ever. You saw it live.
I saw it when it happened. And it's just, thank you for letting me ask that. But I want to get back to the big three, because you're now a coach. Remember, the trophy's named after you. You're very loyal to Nate Robinson, former Knick, by the way, who's basically around my size, an unbelievable player. If you had to put together from your ABA years, your NBA years, and your big three years, with all respect to your current guys, who are your big three on a big three team to win a title? Who do you want?
Give me Moses Malone, right? And I'm on the team. Am I on the team?
Do you want to be on the team?
Yeah, I want to be on. Play because I grew up playing 1-on-1, 2-on-2, 3-on-3. So I know it very well, because every basketball player, who good or average or what have you, played 1-on-1, 2-on-2, 3-on-3 basketball, because there wasn't always 10 guys around to play, and you didn't always have access to a full court. So most of the time you played half court. So I would take Big Mo. Now I know I have my rim protector and I have my inside presence. My 3-point guy, probably Andrew Toney. Andrew, first day of camp, he stopped out there and shot a 4-pointer. And then Billy Cunningham started yelling at him. And he said, "Coach, I can shoot that shot." And, this is something that, Andrew should be a Hall of Famer, even with a shortened career. He's kind of like Gale Sayers, 6 years, and still what he did in the 6 years was phenomenal. And injuries kept him from having a 10 or 15-year career or whatever. But Andrew, he would be the deadliest force from the 3-point line and the 4-point shot or whatever, because he has no conscience. He can miss 6 in a row and still take the next one. And so he would be on my team. I take Big Mo. I take Andrew. I probably would go with Cheeks. And that's a battle between Cheeks, Brian Taylor, and John Williamson. Because John would be killing guys in the big three too. But I need another big man. So who am I going with? God, I had Daryl Dawkins, had Caldwell Jones, Jimmy Akins. After Big Mo, you got to help me with this.
Well, listen, if you're putting a team,
who do you think should be my other man? Maybe Charles Barkley. Do you think?
So it depends which Charles Barkley. If you're getting the TNT Charles Barkley, he's not going to help you. If you're getting the Barkley who, when he's playing with you, is listening to you, then you take him.
When I went to the finals, I mean, let's say if I get Charles Barkley, I don't need John Williamson anymore. And I got the option of taking George Gervin too. So to leave him off that team, probably because of Tony and Cheeks, Barkley, Moses Malone, Julius Erving. 5 guys, big three team, we'll take on anybody.
Do you ever think to yourself what your 83 team could do against the current teams, like even the Bulls teams with Jordan, or the Warriors teams, or the LeBron-led teams? Because people have a hard time comparing, but I don't. And I think that the way you played was far more disciplined, and you'd be able to beat those teams 4 to 7 times. Yeah,
it's come up multiple times. I think I was very pleased to hear UB Brown say that 83 team was the best team that he had ever seen, both ways, offensively and defensively. And, UB Brown is a basketball expert. I mean, if there's a guy with an opinion that should be heard, and listen to, it's Hubie Brown. So so that made me feel good. I know that lots of times, I could see these lists and they pick the top 10 NBA teams of all time. And my Sixers team is not on there. Obviously our Nets teams in 74 and 76 with the ABA probably didn't qualify, but I'm looking around and I'm saying, that's not right. And will they ever get it right? I guess it depends on who they are, so, but I love you, David, for what you had to say about that team, and that team could handle its business in any era. And it's perfectly in sync with how I think about it.
So Red Halsman and I spoke about your team very often, and I wanted to just tell you something that Red used to say about your team. Red Halsman, former coach of the Knicks, two-time world champion with the Knicks, and we would talk about the team and what he would note to me, because I studied the game, because I learned that I wouldn't be able to play it when I stopped growing. And he said, pay attention to the purposeful movement of all five guys on the court every second of the game. Because you weren't standing around watching your teammates. You all were doing something every moment. And Red always talked about that. And did that come from your coach? Did that come from the basketball IQ that you all had? Tell me where that comes from.
Well, I think Billy Cunningham was great in that respect. And we had Billy Cunningham and Chuck Daly. So now we have two Hall of Fame coaches. And Chuck was the X and O guy, and Billy was the big time motivational factor. And that's, you got to play hard. You got to always give 110% and don't stand around, so the combination of those two guys, made it what it was. And, we even in transition, we ran a fast break that was different than Showtime or whatever, because it was structured, and it was a structured fast break, which fed into our offensive set. If the fast break didn't produce a layup or a wide open shot, then we ran right into our offensive sets, which, were decided by the matchups, and whoever had the weaker matchup, that's who we would go to, and we'd automatically do that, and we'd milk it until they stopped it.
I just think about today's game and say to myself that people don't watch the old NBA enough to understand the discipline, to understand the fundamentals that some guys don't have. But I want to switch gears before you have to leave us and get to your practice before you go to the Bahamas. Tell me about Dr. J, because I grew up just calling you the doctor. And I do you have an MD?
I have honorary doctorate degrees from Temple University, University of Massachusetts, and Springfield College. And they're honorary. I have a bachelor's degree from the University of Massachusetts. And I was called the doctor, and long before college. This was in middle school. My buddy was the professor, and I was the doctor. His name is Leon Saunders, and we gave each other nicknames. As my nickname grew and spread with my, rise in popularity as a basketball player, I got to the ABA, and suddenly I became Dr. J, because the team physician was Dr. M, and then another guy in the organization was Dr. something else or whatever. So we just couldn't call out the name Doc and not have two or three heads turn, wondering who you're talking to, which Doc. So Chopper Travelini said, "You got to be Dr. J." He was our trainer. And then we started getting promoted. Charlie the Great Scott and Julius Dr. J. Erving. And then the next year was George Iceman Gervin. And, the ABA was fun. We always had nicknames and sayings and expressions. And like I said before, it was one for all and it was all for one. So if I was going to ever reflect back on my best basketball days, which I enjoyed the most, it would be the ABA days in terms of the big accomplishment, being MVP in the NBA in 1981 and being a champion in 1983.
That is amazing that you look back that way with the ABA, because I think people, when they look back and watch some of those games, the talent, you mentioned George Iceman Gervin, you said Dan Issel, Bobby Thompson. That's a name that doesn't,
David Thompson.
David Thompson, excuse me, I was thinking Bobby Jones. David
Yeah.
Thompson with the Nuggets. Wasn't he on the Nuggets with Doug Moe, and they would score about 170 points a game when Moe was coaching them?
They were a high scoring team for sure. And we played that team in the last ABA championship. And we had played them, I'd say 9 times during the season for whatever reason. And they were a Western Conference team, and they had beaten us 7 out of 9. And then we played them for the championship. We were scared to death. And then I went into Denver, and the first 2 games, I got the green light from Kevin Lockery, and I had rested very well pretty much the last 2 weeks of the season, playing just the first quarter and not playing the rest of the game. And I opened those 2 games with 48 points in the first game and 45 in the second game. And we split. Like I said, the high scorer is always on the winning team. And we got the split. And it ended up being a 6-game series, winning in Nassau Coliseum against them. And that was a crowning victory, and it was the last hurrah of the NBA.
Well, you are a legend, Julius.
Thank you.
I just would like to get everyone to watch the Big Three. The playoffs are starting Saturday. They're starting tomorrow, and it's in the Atlantis in the Bahamas, and Julius Erving coaches the Tri-City team, and they are favored. This is the word I'm getting from CBS, favored to win it, so Dr. J can get given his own trophy to himself. Julius Erving, thank you for being on Nothing Personal, and we wish you a ton of luck down in the Bahamas.
Thank you, David. You take care.